An entire army of clay soldiers stood guard for 2,000 years. But what if their true colors were never meant to be seen? Ancient China is a civilization of profound mysteries, where history and legend often blur into one. We are about to unveil 25 mind-blowing secrets that will completely reshape your understanding of this incredible culture. You will discover revelations of advanced technology, lost cities, and inventions that defy their time. How did a 2,000-year-old sword remain perfectly sharp and untarnished? What deadly secret protects the unopened tomb of the first emperor? The answers challenge everything we thought we knew. What does true ingenuity look like when it is lost for centuries? Those silent clay guardians were not always the uniform, earthy brown we see today. When archaeologists first breached the tomb complex, they were met with a breathtaking spectacle. Every single soldier, every horse, every chariot was a riot of brilliant color. Their armor was lacquered in vibrant greens and purples, their faces painted with individually styled hair and mustaches in jet black or rich brown. They were a complete polychrome army, so lifelike they seemed ready to march straight out of the earth. This incredible vibrancy, however, held a tragic secret. The ancient artisans had applied these pigments over a layer of lacquer, a technique that made the colors shine. But the moment the tombs were opened, that very technique became their downfall. The dry air of the modern world reacted with the moisture sealed inside for 2 millennia. The lacquer finish began to dry out at an alarming rate, curling up like paper in a fire and taking the priceless paint with it. Witnesses describe watching in horror as the brilliant hues flaked off and faded to dust within mere minutes of exposure. It was a historical catastrophe happening in fast forward. Today, the conservation of these lost colors is a race against time. Scientists use sophisticated microscopes to identify minuscule flecks of pigment still clinging to the figures. They have catalogued a vast palette from cinnabar red and malachite green to azurite blue and even rare shades of purple, once a color reserved for emperors. Using this data, they are creating digital reconstructions that show us the army as it was meant to be seen. The true Terracotta Army was not a monochrome monument. It was a grand, colorful declaration of power, a belief that even in the afterlife, an emperor's guard should be as vivid and formidable as the day it was created. This revelation completely transforms these stoic figures from silent statues into a once living, breathing military force frozen in time. Yet even the vibrant spectacle of the emperor's army pales before a mystery found in one of the most desolate places on Earth. High on Mount Beigong, in a remote and uninhabitable region of China, sits a trio of caves. Within the largest, a system of iron pipes is embedded directly into the rock, running from the cave floor deep into the mountain. Their arrangement is too deliberate, too structured to be a natural formation. These pipes are not scattered randomly. They are organized, with some pointing directly toward a nearby saltwater lake and others protruding from the rock on the shore itself. The most baffling part is a solitary pipe 40 centimeters wide that stands on the lake's bank like a forgotten industrial chimney. Scientific analysis of the pipes has yielded a date that defies easy explanation. They are estimated to be about 150,000 years old, a time long before recorded history, and according to conventional understanding, long before humans had mastered advanced metal smelting. The composition of the pipes is equally strange, containing a significant percentage of an unknown material that scientists cannot fully identify. So who created these structures and for what possible purpose? The remote location rules out any modern industry or recent human settlement. The official explanations of natural processes feel inadequate against the sheer precision of the pipework. This has inevitably fueled incredible theories. Some suggest a lost, advanced human civilization, one whose technological achievements were completely erased by time. Others look to the stars, proposing that the pipes are the remnants of an extraterrestrial outpost, a piece of ancient machinery left behind by visitors. The truth remains locked within the rock and metal, a silent, enduring question mark in the heart of the mountains. While ancient pipes in a mountain suggest a forgotten technology, the Forbidden City in Beijing showcases an ancient secret that has survived in plain sight for nearly 600 years. This sprawling palace complex has withstood dozens of major earthquakes, including a massive tremor in the 1600s that leveled stone buildings across the region. The secret to its resilience lies not in its stone foundations, but in its graceful, curved rooftops. Hidden from view beneath those iconic sweeping eaves is a revolutionary seismic technology made entirely of wood. This is the dugong system, a network of interlocking wooden brackets that holds the entire structure together without using a single nail or drop of glue. Each bracket is a masterpiece of precision carpentry, carved to fit perfectly with its neighbors. Think of it like the suspension system in a modern car, designed to absorb the bumps and jolts of a rough road. During an earthquake, the entire building is designed to sway and flex. The dugong brackets act as a sophisticated shock absorber. As the ground shakes, the wood grinds and shifts within these complex joints, dissipating the destructive energy of the tremor across the entire framework. The energy that could shatter a rigid stone column is instead transformed into a graceful, rocking motion. Modern engineers have even built full-scale models of these structures and tested them on earthquake simulators. They watched in awe as the replica withstood seismic forces equivalent to a massive earthquake, rocking and swaying violently but never collapsing. It is a breathtaking demonstration of a centuries-old solution to a very modern problem. This is not merely historical architecture. It is a timeless lesson in flexibility and resilience, a secret of seismic design so advanced that we are still learning from its principles today. Yet this mastery of wood and earth stands in stark contrast to a city that was willingly surrendered to water. Deep within the Qingdao Lake, a metropolis of unparalleled beauty sleeps in silence. This is the Lion City, Xicheng, a place not lost to catastrophe, but deliberately submerged in 1959 to make way for a new hydroelectric dam. The water did not destroy it. Instead, the cold, dark, and perfectly still depths have acted as a perfect preservative, creating a time capsule frozen 40 meters below the surface. The city's intricate stonework, from the majestic archways to the towering city walls dating back to the Ming and Qing dynasties, remains almost perfectly intact. Recent underwater explorations have sent divers and robotic submersibles into this silent world, their lights piercing the gloom to reveal a sight that defies belief. Ornate carvings of lions, dragons, and phoenixes adorn the walls, their details so sharp they look as if they were carved yesterday. Grand stone arches frame streets that lead into the darkness, and ancient staircases ascend toward a surface they cannot reach. Advanced sonar mapping has painstakingly charted the entire city grid, revealing a sprawling urban landscape of 265 arches and countless structures, a ghostly blueprint of a lost world. It is a Chinese Atlantis, a secret metropolis where time itself seems to have been placed on hold. This was not an act of destruction, but a strange kind of sacrifice, a trade of one form of power for another. The city was silenced to give energy to the modern world, and in doing so, it was granted a form of immortality. We are left to wonder what other secrets are waiting in the stillness, preserved not by human hands, but by the patient, dark embrace of the water. While the silent city sleeps beneath the lake, another relic from the depths defied time in an even more tangible way. In 1965, archaeologists carefully excavated a waterlogged tomb from the spring and autumn period. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and ancient decay. Inside a stone coffin, they found a bronze sword, its scabbard seemingly fused to the blade by centuries of immersion. As a researcher gently drew the sword from its resting place, a collective gasp echoed through the chamber. The blade, despite being over 2,000 years old, was flawless. Not a single spot of rust marred its surface. It gleamed in the dim tomb light with a cold, metallic luster. In an astonishing test of its enduring edge, a technician carefully laid a stack of 20 pieces of paper on a table. With a swift, smooth motion, the ancient sword sliced through the entire stack as if it were a modern razor blade. The secret to this miraculous preservation was a technological marvel lost to history. The Sword of Goujian, as it became known, was protected by a wafer-thin layer of chromium salt, a sophisticated anti-corrosion plating. For decades, the history books credited German engineers in the 1930s with the invention of chromium plating. Yet here was definitive proof that Chinese metallurgists had perfected the same technique more than 2 millennia earlier. They had discovered how to use a process of diffusion, likely through heating and oxidizing, to bond chromium molecules to the surface of the bronze, creating a protective shield that actively resisted tarnishing. But the sword's genius did not end with its blade. Its scabbard was crafted with an equally clever design, made of an organic material that created an almost airtight seal. Over time, as the organic components decayed in the wet tomb, they released sulfur compounds. This sulfur-rich environment further inhibited the growth of bacteria and the process of oxidation, creating a second, passive layer of defense for the precious blade within. The alloy of the sword itself was a masterpiece of composition, a precise blend of copper, tin, and trace elements that gave the metal an extraordinary combination of flexibility and incredible sharpness. This was not a lucky artifact. It was the product of a scientific understanding that we would not rediscover for centuries. How many other secrets of metal and fire have been lost, their brilliance hidden in the dark, waiting for the light of a new age to reveal them once more? That same mastery of chemistry that preserved a sword could also be twisted into a weapon of terrifying ingenuity. Centuries before the world would name such horrors, ancient Chinese strategists were already waging a silent, suffocating war. Historical texts from the Han Dynasty, written around 200 AD, describe a brutal and effective tactic for siege warfare. When an enemy force was barricaded within a fortified city or a network of tunnels, attackers would not always resort to a direct assault. Instead, they would deploy a more insidious tool. Soldiers used hollowed-out ox horns as primitive but effective bellows. They would stuff these horns with a toxic mixture of dried plants, including a particularly potent type of mustard, and then set the bundle ablaze. The narrow end of the horn would be thrust into an opening in the enemy's defenses, and with powerful squeezes, the soldiers would pump thick, poisonous smoke directly into the enclosed space. The accounts described the horrific results. The smoke was not merely an irritant. It was a lethal agent that caused convulsions, blistering of the lungs, and a certain agonizing death for anyone trapped inside. This was not a weapon of force, but one of biology designed to attack the body from the inside out. It stands as one of the earliest, most chillingly documented uses of chemical agents in the history of warfare. This dark secret reveals a profound and unsettling truth about innovation. The same culture that gave the world beautiful lacquerware and resilient bronze could, when faced with the demands of conflict, channel its deep understanding of the natural world into creating one of history's most fearsome and inhuman weapons. The pursuit of knowledge, it seems, has always walked a razor's edge between creation and destruction. Even the deadliest chemical weapons required an enemy to be seen, but what of a threat that arrived without warning from deep within the earth? In the year 132 AD, a brilliant astronomer and inventor named Zhang Heng presented the Han Dynasty court with a stunning object, a large, ornate bronze urn he called the Hufeng Didongyi, the instrument for measuring the seasonal winds and the movements of the earth. To the assembled officials, it was a work of art, adorned with 8 dragon heads gazing outward, each holding a bronze ball in its jaws. Below each dragon crouched a corresponding bronze toad, its mouth open in anticipation. The secret of this beautiful machine, however, was hidden completely from view. Inside the vessel, Zhang Heng had engineered a masterpiece of precision. A heavy inverted pendulum was suspended freely at its center, a cleverly balanced weight that could swing in any direction. This pendulum was connected to a set of cleverly arranged levers, each one leading to a dragon's head. The entire system was exquisitely sensitive, designed to catch a vibration that no human could perceive. The principle was one of pure genius. When a tremor occurred, even hundreds of miles away, the seismic waves would travel through the ground and reach the urn. The heavy pendulum inside, due to its own inertia, would lag slightly behind the movement of the vessel itself. This tiny, almost imperceptible shift would trigger one of the internal levers. A mechanism would release, and a single bronze ball would drop from a dragon's mouth directly into the waiting maw of the toad below. The clang of bronze on bronze would announce not just that an earthquake had happened, but precisely from which direction it had come. The historical records recount a famous demonstration of its power. One day, a ball from the dragon facing west clattered into its toad, yet in the capital city, no one had felt so much as a shudder. Skeptical court officials dismissed it as a malfunction, until days later a messenger arrived, exhausted and covered in dust. He reported a devastating earthquake had struck a commandery several hundred miles to the west on the exact day and in the exact direction the device had indicated. The machine had sensed the earthquake's long, slow seismic waves, the ones that travel great distances but are often too subtle for human senses, long before the messenger could ever hope to arrive. Zhang Heng's seismoscope did not just predict danger, it translated the silent, invisible language of the planet itself into a signal anyone could understand, a secret whispered from the earth, caught in a bronze urn and announced by a falling metal ball. While Zhang Heng's device interpreted the Earth's tremors, another artifact from the ancient world sought to map the very heavens. In a tomb from the Warring States period, a bundle of silk was discovered, carefully folded and placed beside its noble owner. This was no ordinary burial cloth. Unfurled, it revealed the Chu silk manuscript, one of the oldest surviving texts from China, and its message is a riddle wrapped in a mystery. The script used is so ancient, so far removed from modern characters, that even today only about 2/3 of it can be understood. The text is framed by illustrations of mythical trees and 12 strange, deity-like figures, each one seemingly connected to a month of the year. The words themselves speak of a universe in delicate balance, describing celestial deities who control the movements of the sun and moon, and issuing stark warnings of cosmic calamity should the natural order be disrupted. It appears to be a profound cosmological treatise, a guide to the stars and the powerful forces that govern them. But what was its true purpose? Was this silk a burial map, intended to guide the soul of the deceased through the perils of the afterlife by navigating the constellations? Or was it an astronomical manual for a living priest-king, a sacred text to ensure the harmony between heaven and earth through precise rituals? Some scholars see it as a magical text, a powerful talisman whose very words were meant to ward off the disasters it so vividly describes. The illustrations are not mere decoration, they are integral to the puzzle. The 12 figures could represent divine beings, or perhaps they are judges presiding over the calendar, enforcing the proper observance of festivals and sacrifices. The text warns of seasons falling into chaos and unnatural phenomena like colored suns and eclipses, all signs of a world out of sync with the celestial blueprint. The secret of the Chu silk manuscript is that it is all these things at once: a map, a guide, and a spell. Its full meaning remains locked away, a linguistic puzzle that has resisted a century of study. We can glimpse the worldview of its creators, a vision of a cosmos alive with intelligence and peril. but the complete conversation between those ancient scribes and their gods is a whisper we have not yet fully learned to hear. The silent language of the cosmos was not only written on silk, but carved into the very stones of China's greatest cities. Ancient architects and planners operated under a profound belief that human structures must echo the harmony of the universe, and they achieved this through a secret numerical code. This was not mere superstition. It was a rigorous system where every number held a specific celestial power, creating a sacred geometry that connected the earth to the heavens. The most revered of all these digits was the number 9. In this cosmological view, 9 was the ultimate Yong number, representing the supreme authority of the emperor and the limitless expanse of heaven itself. It was considered impossible for a mortal to claim the perfect 10, so the emperor, the son of heaven, would use 9 to symbolize his paramount status on earth. Nowhere is this more breathtakingly evident than in the Forbidden City. A legend persists that this imperial palace contains exactly 9,999 rooms. The idea was that only the celestial palace of the Jade Emperor in heaven could possess 10,000 rooms. The earthly emperor's domain, therefore, had just one less, a deliberate and humbling acknowledgement of the cosmic order. While the actual count of rooms is slightly different, the symbolic pursuit of 9s is woven throughout the complex, from the 9 rows of door nails on the grand gates to the repeated use of the number in architectural groupings. This veneration of 9 extended far beyond palace walls. For millennia, Chinese artisans crafted beautiful by discs from jade, ritual objects with a central hole. These were not simple decorations, they were cosmological models with the circular shape representing heaven and the central hole symbolizing the axis of the world. The most powerful of these discs were adorned with 9 concentric rings, carving the number of the heavens into the sacred stone itself, but 9 did not stand alone. It was part of a balanced numerical system. The number 4, representing the 4 cardinal directions and the solidity of the earth, was its essential partner. This is why the layout of many ancient cities, like the historic plan of Old Beijing, was a perfect square oriented to the points of the compass. The city walls often had 3 gates on each side, and 3 times 3, of course, makes 9, once again weaving the heavenly number into the urban fabric. This pervasive code was the secret blueprint for an entire civilization. From the sweeping scale of a capital city down to the intricate details of a ritual object, every measurement was a deliberate act of cosmic alignment. It was a silent prayer in stone and wood, a continuous effort to build a world that was not just functional, but spiritually in tune with the music of the spheres. This same reverence for natural harmony, a philosophy that shaped cities and calendars, was channeled into one of the most ambitious engineering projects the ancient world ever witnessed. Far from the imperial palaces in the heart of Sichuan province, a monumental challenge threatened the entire Chengdu plain. The Min River, a powerful and unpredictable force, would routinely burst its banks, bringing devastating floods during the wet season, only to leave behind parched farmland in times of drought. The solution, conceived by a visionary governor named Lai Bing around 256 BC, was not to confront the river with a brute force dam, but to outthink it. He created the Duzhongyan irrigation system, a masterpiece of hydraulic engineering that still functions perfectly today, over 2,300 years after it was built. Its secret was a profound understanding of nature's own rhythms, a system designed to work with the water, not against it. The entire project revolves around 3 ingeniously simple yet brilliant components. First is the Fishmouth Levee, a man-made island strategically positioned in the center of the river. This structure does not block the water. Instead, it performs a delicate dance of division. During the dry season, 60% of the river's flow is naturally directed into the inner channel, ensuring a steady supply of water for irrigation across the vast plain. But when the rains come and the river swells with torrential power, the dynamics magically reverse. The main channel now carries 60% of the raging water, safely bypassing the farmlands and preventing catastrophic floods. It is a self-regulating system with no moving parts, using the water's own volume and speed to govern its behavior. The second component tackles an equally insidious problem: silt. A river carries immense amounts of sand and sediment, which can quickly clog any irrigation network. Lai Bing's answer was the flying sand fence, a low spillway that runs alongside the inner channel. This is where the real magic of physics takes over. As the fast-moving water in the main channel rushes past the slower water in the irrigation channel, it creates a powerful whirlpool effect. This spinning vortex acts like a natural centrifuge, literally plucking silt and excess water from the inner channel and flinging it back over the spillway into the main river. It is a built-in self-cleaning mechanism that has kept the system from silting up for over 2 millennia. All of this carefully managed water is then funneled into the final component, the precious bottleneck channel. This narrow passage acts as the ultimate throttle valve, a natural checkpoint that constricts the flow, creating a holding basin that ensures a consistent, controlled release of water into the vast network of irrigation canals. The true genius of Duzhongyan is not in any single part, but in their perfect synergy. It is a living entity that breathes with the river, a perpetual motion machine of water and wisdom. While other contemporary civilizations were building static, monumental structures, Chinese engineers were creating dynamic, responsive systems that healed the landscape rather than conquering it. This was sustainable engineering in its purest form, a secret not of force but of finesse, and its legacy continues to nourish a land and its people to this very day. Buried beneath the shifting sands of the Taklamakan Desert lies a secret that should not exist. In the parched, salt-crusted earth of the Xinjiang Basin, archaeologists uncovered mummies so perfectly preserved they seem to be merely sleeping. Their faces, with high cheekbones, long noses, and blonde or red hair, stare back across 4,000 years with features that are distinctly, undeniably European. This is the mystery of the Churchan people, a community that thrived in this desolate corner of Asia millennia before East and West were ever formally connected. They were not just passing travelers. They built homes, raised families, and wove their own distinctive textiles, including intricate tartan cloth that looks as if it were pulled from the Scottish Highlands. These people lived and died in China, yet they were not Chinese. Their very presence rewrites the map of ancient human movement. How did a community from the West end up in one of the most remote and inhospitable deserts on Earth, and what does their existence say about the world they lived in? The answers were locked in their bones. Advanced DNA analysis confirmed a truth that the mummies' faces had already told. Their genetic lineage traces directly back to ancient populations from the Black Sea region, thousands of miles to the west. They were not a lost Roman legion or a band of Viking explorers. They were farmers and herders from the steppes who embarked on an epic, prehistoric migration across the vastness of Central Asia. Their journey was not along a defined Silk Road, for that legendary network would not exist for another 2,000 years. They walked a secret road, a path of unrecorded contact and exchange that flowed between continents in the silence of prehistory. They carried with them not only their distinct genes but their technologies, their weaving techniques, and their entire way of life, planting a piece of the West deep in the heart of Asia. This discovery shatters the traditional timeline. It reveals that the crossroads of civilization were not a later invention of the classical age, but a fundamental reality of the human story, stretching back into the mists of the Bronze Age. The Taklamakan mummies are not merely well-preserved bodies. They are silent witnesses to a lost epoch of globalization, a secret chapter of migration and connection that history books are only now beginning to acknowledge. Long before the first emperor dreamed of his Terracotta Army, another civilization was carving its own secrets from stone. The Liangzhu culture emerged from the wetlands of the Yangtze River Delta 5,000 years ago, a society so advanced its achievements rivaled the pyramids of Egypt and the ziggurats of Mesopotamia. Their legacy is defined by a mysterious material, a jet-black pottery so fine and polished it seems sculpted from the night sky. This was not a primitive people. They were master engineers and visionary artists whose greatest secret was their sudden, total disappearance. The heart of their power was worked not in clay but in jade. They carved this impossibly hard stone with a skill that defies explanation, creating objects of profound spiritual meaning. Their signature artifacts were the bai, a flat disc with a central hole representing heaven, and the kong, a hollow tube encased within a square symbolizing the earth. These were not mere decorations. The kong tubes are masterpieces of symbolic art, their square outer form often carved with intricate, stylized faces, each one a portrait of a deity or an ancestral spirit. The act of piercing the hard jade to create the perfect circular core of the kong was a monumental feat of patience and technology, a physical prayer uniting the round heaven with the square earth. These objects were the sacred instruments of a society deeply in tune with cosmic order, tools used by a powerful priestly class to communicate with the gods. Their genius extended from the spiritual directly into the practical, in a feat of urban planning that seems almost modern. The Liangzhu built a vast capital city, a metropolis crisscrossed by a network of canals and protected by an enormous system of dams and reservoirs. This was one of the largest hydraulic projects of the ancient world. They constructed massive earthen pyramids, elevating their elites and their rituals high above the floodplain. The city itself was a meticulously planned grid, with distinct residential quarters, ceremonial centers, and craft workshops, all supported by an agricultural surplus made possible by their control over water. They had tamed their environment, creating a stable, prosperous society that lasted for a millennium. Then, around 4,300 years ago, this flourishing civilization simply vanished. The intricate jade carving stopped, the great earthworks were abandoned, the cities were swallowed by the wetlands, leaving behind only their silent black pottery and their sublime jade. The secret of their end is one of history's greatest enigmas. Some scientists point to climate data, suggesting that a dramatic shift in monsoon patterns caused catastrophic flooding that their sophisticated dams could no longer contain. Others propose that rising sea levels slowly inundated their fertile plains, forcing a dispersal of the population. There is no evidence of a great war, no mass graves to suggest a violent invasion. It seems their world simply fell apart, not with a bang, but with a relentless, creeping damp. How could a society of such profound skill and organization be so completely erased from the landscape, its memory lost for thousands of years? The Liangzhu stand as a haunting reminder of the fragility of even the greatest civilizations, a secret society whose light was extinguished, leaving only their beautiful, enigmatic artifacts to whisper of a forgotten golden age. This mastery of jade and water speaks to a culture of profound secrets, but none was guarded more fiercely than the one that created a fabric worth its weight in gold. For nearly 3,000 years, the method for producing silk was China's most valuable state secret, a complete monopoly built on the life cycle of a humble moth. The entire sprawling industry, known as sericulture, was a multi-stage marvel of biological engineering. It began not in a workshop, but in a grove of mulberry trees, the only plant the silkworm caterpillar would eat. Farmers cultivated these trees with meticulous care, knowing the quality of the leaves directly influenced the strength and sheen of the final thread. The process was a race against time. Once the silkworm eggs hatched, the tiny caterpillars would eat mulberry leaves almost continuously, growing exponentially until they were ready to spin their cocoons. This spinning stage was the pivotal moment. The caterpillar secreted a liquid protein from glands in its head, which hardened upon contact with air into a single, incredibly fine filament. It would move its head in a precise figure 8 pattern thousands of times, wrapping itself in a continuous strand that could be over 900 meters long, all to create a single, perfect cocoon. The true secret, the one that confounded the world, was what happened next. To harvest this unbroken thread, the cocoons had to be plunged into hot water. This simultaneously softened the sticky protein holding the cocoon together, and critically killed the pupa inside before it could mature and secrete a fluid that would cut the precious filament, rendering the cocoon useless for reeling. The hot water allowed a skilled worker to gently find the loose end of the silk filament and with immense patience begin unraveling it onto a spindle. Several of these incredibly thin strands would be twisted together to create a single, strong thread of silk ready for weaving. This intricate knowledge was a matter of national security. The Chinese Empire imposed the death penalty on anyone caught attempting to smuggle silkworm eggs, caterpillars, or cocoons beyond its borders. Border guards were tasked with inspecting cargo and travelers with extreme prejudice. This was not merely about protecting a luxury trade, it was about safeguarding the very engine of their economic power. For centuries, this wall of silence held. The West adored the final product, this shimmering, lightweight, and incredibly strong cloth, but they believed the wildest theories about its origin. Roman scholars like Virgil wrote that silk was a wool combed from special leaves in eastern forests. Others were convinced it was grown in the ground itself. The truth was a secret of life and death, a biological wonder so closely guarded that it fueled one of history's longest-running and most lucrative acts of economic espionage, all born from the silent, patient work of a tiny caterpillar. Deep beneath the earth, another kind of power awaited discovery. While the Liangzhu mastered water and others perfected silk, the Han Dynasty engineers unlocked a force of pure fire. Over 2,000 years ago, they achieved the impossible by becoming the first civilization in the world to harness natural gas. This was not an accidental find, but the result of a deliberate and sophisticated industrial operation. Their secret lay in a simple yet brilliant material, bamboo. They developed a system of deep drilling using heavy iron bits attached to bamboo poles that could be raised and dropped by a wooden derrick, pulverizing the rock far below. These boreholes, some plunging nearly 1,000 meters deep, were true feats of engineering. Once they struck gas, they faced the ultimate challenge: how to transport this volatile, invisible substance. Their solution was to create extensive pipelines, channeling the gas through long, connected bamboo tubes. The joints were sealed meticulously with a mixture of mud and lacquer, creating a network strong enough to withstand the pressure and direct the flow for miles. But what was the purpose of capturing this subterranean fire? The answer lay in the salt fields of Sichuan. Here, brine was pumped from deep wells, but transforming it into solid salt required an immense amount of heat to evaporate the water. The natural gas was piped directly to large boiling pans, where it burned with a steady, intense flame far more efficient and controllable than wood or charcoal. This created a powerhouse salt production industry, a process of staggering scale that remained a tightly guarded regional secret for centuries. Imagine the scene: flames erupting from bamboo pipes, fueling vast, steaming salt works in an industrial spectacle that the rest of the world would not replicate for nearly 2 millennia. This was not a mystical ritual, it was hard-nosed chemical engineering. They had identified a problem, found a resource, and built the technology to bridge the gap, creating an energy revolution in ancient times. How many other such breakthroughs have been lost, their secrets buried not in tombs, but in the forgotten routines of daily industry? That same mastery of fire and chemistry that fueled ancient industries now protects the most legendary tomb in all of history. The final resting place of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China, remains a sealed secret, a treasure so perilous that it has defied excavation for more than 2,000 years. Ancient historian Sima Qian, writing a century after the emperor's death, described the tomb's interior in terrifying detail. He wrote of palaces and pavilions filled with priceless jewels, a miniature universe with the ceiling inlaid with pearls to represent the stars. But this splendor was guarded by a nightmare of mechanical death. Crossbows were rigged to fire automatically at anyone who broke through the sealed entrance. The greatest danger, however, lay in the landscape itself. Sima Qian claimed the emperor had commissioned a vast-scale model of his kingdom, complete with rivers and oceans made not of water, but of flowing, liquid mercury. This was not just a decorative marvel, it was the ultimate self-perpetuating poison. Mercury vaporizes at room temperature, and any intruder breathing that air would face a swift and certain end. For centuries, this account was read as legend, a dramatic flourish from an ancient storyteller. Then modern science intervened. Geologists began taking soil samples from the massive pyramid-like mound that marks the tomb's location. The results were stunning. They found mercury concentrations in the earth that were dozens, and in some spots even hundreds of times higher than normal background levels. The pattern of this mercury pollution was not random. It mapped a distinct, elevated reading in one area, mirroring the location of the Yellow River on a map of Qin Shi Huang's empire, and lower readings elsewhere, just as you would expect from a simulated sea. The scientific evidence powerfully corroborates the ancient text. The tomb is not merely buried, it is actively toxic. The mercury rivers have been slowly off-gassing for millennia, saturating the soil and almost certainly filling the interior chambers with a lethal atmosphere. To break into that space would be an act of suicide. This presents archaeologists with an agonizing dilemma. The potential discoveries inside are unimaginable, likely surpassing even the Terracotta Army that guards the perimeter. Yet the technological and safety challenges of safely penetrating this poisoned palace are immense. The tomb of the first emperor is more than an archaeological site. It is a perfect, deadly trap set by a paranoid ruler who intended his sleep to be eternal. The secret it holds is not just what wonders lie within, but whether we will ever be able to see them without paying the ultimate price. The silent, toxic tomb of the first emperor is a monument to fear, but scattered across the plains of central China stand other pyramids built for a different kind of eternity. These are not the angular stone structures of Egypt, but colossal, grass-covered mounds of packed earth, their shapes softened by centuries of wind and rain. They are the forgotten pyramids of China, and their sheer scale is almost incomprehensible. The Maoling Mausoleum, the tomb of Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty, contains over 7 million cubic meters of earth, a volume that rivals the Great Pyramid of Giza itself. These are not small hills, they are monumental, human-made mountains, constructed as the final resting places for the early emperors of China. Each one was the centerpiece of a vast necropolis, a city of the dead intended to project imperial power into the afterlife. Yet today, they remain largely unknown to the outside world, shrouded in a different kind of secrecy. The Chinese government has deliberately restricted access to these sites, cordoning them off from the public and from most archaeologists. Official policy has been to plant them densely with trees and bushes, a move presented as a conservation effort to prevent soil erosion on the ancient earthworks. This very act of preservation, however, has deepened the mystery. The trees anchor the soil, but their roots also weave a protective veil, making any form of intrusive archaeological survey incredibly difficult. They stand now as silent, green-clad giants, their secrets locked firmly within. This has inevitably fueled intense speculation. What lies inside these undisturbed tombs? The Terracotta Army was merely the peripheral guard for one emperor. Could the central tombs of these pyramids contain treasures that dwarf even that discovery? Some theories suggest the core chambers may hold complete libraries of bamboo scrolls, their contents lost to history or technological marvels we cannot yet conceive. The government's caution is understandable, born from a painful history. In the 1950s, a rushed, politically motivated excavation of the Ming Dynasty tombs resulted in catastrophic damage. Priceless silks and paintings literally disintegrated before the archaeologists' eyes, their colors vanishing in moments due to a lack of proper conservation technology. The lesson was searingly clear. To open a tomb is to risk its destruction. The current approach is one of patience, using non-invasive techniques like ground-penetrating radar to slowly map the hidden chambers without breaking the seal. Until the day comes when science can guarantee the preservation of whatever lies within, these earthen pyramids will keep their secrets, standing as solemn, untouchable reminders of an empire's enduring ambition. While emperors built walls and armies, a single book taught how to conquer the mind itself. Sun Tzu's The Art of War is far more than a military manual. Its true secret is a timeless blueprint for psychological manipulation, a deep understanding of the human heart in conflict. Its most famous principle is the ultimate form of efficiency. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill. This is not about avoiding battle, but about winning the war before it even begins. It is the art of making your opponent's position so hopeless, their morale so broken, that their surrender is inevitable. How do you achieve this? Through a masterful campaign of perception. You cut off their supply lines, isolate them from their allies, and spread discord and despair within their ranks. You make their cause seem futile before a single sword is drawn. This is winning through sheer intellectual and psychological dominance. At the core of this philosophy is a line known to millions, yet fully understood by few. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. This knowing goes far beyond counting soldiers or mapping terrain. It means understanding the enemy commander's ambitions, his insecurities, and his triggers. Is he arrogant? Lure him into a trap with a feigned retreat. Is he cautious? Provoke him with constant harassment until he makes a reckless move. But the deeper, more difficult work is knowing yourself. You must confront your own biases, your own impatience, and your own blind spots. A general who cannot master his own anger is already defeated, for he can be led by the nose into any ambush. The entire strategy is built on a foundation of illusion. All warfare is based on deception. When you are near, make the enemy believe you are far away. When you are strong, appear weak and disorganized to bait him into an attack. One of the most stunning historical applications of this came from the Han Dynasty general Han Xin. Facing a vastly larger army, he positioned his troops with their backs to a river, a move that defied all conventional tactics. To the enemy, it looked like sheer incompetence, the act of a desperate fool. They attacked with confidence, expecting an easy victory, but Han Xin knew his own men. By removing any possibility of retreat, he had triggered their most primal instinct to fight for survival. His soldiers, with nowhere to run, fought with 10 times their normal ferocity and routed the bewildered enemy force. He used the enemy's perception of his weakness as his ultimate weapon. This is the secret that has carried the art of war from ancient battlefields into modern boardrooms and sports arenas. The text does not just teach you how to fight. It teaches you how to think, how to perceive reality without illusion, and how to shape the perceptions of others. It is a permanent secret, not of weaponry, but of the human mind itself, proving that the most decisive battles are always won inside the head long before they are fought on the ground. That same strategic brilliance which commanded armies also mastered a far smaller but equally vital world. 2,000 years ago, Chinese artisans unlocked a secret biological power that still flavors our food today. They learned to domesticate an entire invisible ecosystem. Their most revolutionary tool was not a weapon or a tool of stone, but a simple, crumbly cake known as. This was the ancient world's most sophisticated fermentation starter, a living library of molds, yeasts, and bacteria carefully cultivated on a base of steamed grain. The true genius of lies in a chemical dance modern science calls simultaneous saccharification and fermentation. This complex term describes a beautifully simple secret. Inside, the different microorganisms work in a perfect, synchronized assembly line. First, specific molds like Aspergillus oryzae go to work. They are the demolition crew, secreting powerful enzymes that break down the complex starches in rice or wheat, chopping them into simple sugars. Then, without any pause, the yeasts in the take over. They consume those freshly created sugars and convert them directly into alcohol. This all happens at once in the very same vat. It is a continuous, self-sustaining reaction, a microbial symphony conducted within a simple clay jar. This single, secret process became the foundation for an entire culinary civilization. The same fundamental biotechnology, with slight variations in the recipe and the base ingredients, could produce an astonishing array of staples. When applied to steamed glutinous rice, it created the sweet, potent brew of rice wine. Mixed with crushed soybeans and wheat, it slowly, over months of fermentation, transformed into the deep, savory umami of soy sauce. And yes, when allowed to fully acidify, it became the sharp, bracing note of vinegar. This was not mere cooking, it was early biochemistry. The artisans who managed these fermentations were masters of their environment, controlling temperature and humidity to guide the invisible workforce within them. They knew that a slightly warmer room would encourage the alcohol-producing yeasts, while a cooler, more aerobic condition would favor the acetic acid bacteria that created vinegar. How many generations of observation and experimentation did it take to perfect this balance, to learn to harness these wild, invisible forces and turn them into a reliable, reproducible technology? The secret of is a testament to a different kind of ancient genius. It was not about dominating nature with grand monuments, but about collaborating with the microscopic world to create sustenance and flavor. This living technology, born in humble workshops, is a secret that has truly stood the test of time. Its ancient, flavorful legacy still present on dinner tables across the globe today. The same reverence for the unseen that guided fermentation also shaped objects of immense power and permanence. In the silent depths of Shang and Zhou dynasty tombs, the most sacred artifacts were not forged for the living but for the gods and ancestors. These ritual bronze vessels, used to hold offerings of wine and food, were covered in a language of symbols meant to be read by spirits. The most dominant of these was the Tauti, a staring, mythical mask often split down the center. This was not a random monster. Its glaring eyes, sharp horns, and abstract form were a deliberate, terrifying focal point, a symbol of the immense, devouring power of the spiritual world. It served as a warning and a bridge, confronting the divine with the ferocity of the unknown and establishing a sacred space for communication. Interwoven with the Tauti were dragons and other celestial creatures, each one a part of a complex symbolic vocabulary that mapped the cosmos onto the surface of a cooking pot or a wine goblet. The very act of using these vessels in ceremony transformed a simple offering into a transaction with the other side, their designs acting as a spiritual interface. Yet the most direct secrets were often cast into the bronze itself, hidden in plain sight. Inscriptions were carefully carved into the clay molds before the molten metal was poured, becoming a permanent part of the vessel's body. These were not signatures, but historical records of supreme importance. A king might commission a vessel to commemorate a military victory, detailing the number of enemies captured and the land seized. Another would record a royal decree granting new territories or titles to a loyal noble, the text serving as an unchangeable legal document blessed by the ancestors. The most poignant inscriptions were dedications. A nobleman would have an inscription cast to honor his father or grandfather, describing the vessel's purpose for making offerings and pleading for protection and blessings for his lineage. These bronze messages were the ultimate fusion of political power and spiritual belief. They were created to be seen by the ancestral spirits during rituals, a way to report achievements and secure favor, ensuring that the deeds of the living would be acknowledged and rewarded by the dead. Each vessel was a sealed metal time capsule, its hidden text a direct line to the divine, ensuring that a king's command or a family's plea would resonate for eternity. The language of the cosmos, it seems, was also written in the universal script of mathematics. 1,000 years before Pythagoras was born, Chinese mathematicians had already unlocked the secret relationship between the sides of a right triangle. This was not a mere observation. It was a fully realized mathematical principle known as the Gauguin theorem, and its proof was a thing of elegant visual genius. The evidence rests within one of the world's oldest mathematical texts, the Zhu by Suan Jing, or the arithmetical classic of the gnomon and the circular paths of heaven. This was not a dry academic paper. It was a practical manual for astronomers and land surveyors, individuals who needed to measure the heavens and the earth with perfect accuracy. The text presents a conversation between a duke and his minister who explains how to use the principle. If you break the two shorter sides, the gu and the gu, into 3 and 4 units, then the hypotenuse will measure exactly 5. This 3-4-5 triangle was their foundational example, a perfect whole number demonstration of a rule that governed all right-angled shapes. But the true secret, the moment of breathtaking clarity, came with their geometric proof. They conceived a visual model known as the hypotenuse square diagram. Imagine a right triangle. Now, imagine building a large square on its hypotenuse, the longest side. Then picture arranging 4 of the original right triangles around the outside of this large square, their right angles pointing outward. What remains in the center is a smaller, tilted square. The sheer brilliance of this arrangement is that the area of the large square, the one on the hypotenuse, is proven to be exactly equal to the combined area of the squares you could build on the 2 shorter sides. You are not just told the rule, you can see it, a perfect spatial equation where the parts visibly add up to the whole. This was a secret of profound practical power. Astronomers used it to calculate the height of celestial bodies above the horizon by treating the sky itself as a giant triangle. Surveyors used it to lay out perfect right angles for fields and foundations, creating a tool of measurement as reliable as any modern device. The Gauguin theorem stands as a monumental, independent discovery. It reveals a world where mathematical truth was not confined to one civilization, but emerged from the universal human need to understand the fundamental geometry of our existence. This was a secret not of calculation, but of vision, proving that some of the deepest truths are not just solved, but seen. That same geometric vision found its ultimate expression in a book so advanced it became the hidden engine of an empire. The 9 chapters on the mathematical art is not merely a textbook. It is a 2,000-year-old secret vault of mathematical genius, a compilation of 246 problems that provided the essential toolkit for building and running a civilization. Its pages contained methods for calculating the area of farmland, the volume of granaries, and the fair distribution of taxes, all framed as practical puzzles for the imperial bureaucracy. But woven into these everyday problems were solutions of breathtaking sophistication, ideas that the Western world would not formally develop for more than a millennium. One of its most stunning secrets was a systematic method for solving problems with several unknowns. The text outlines a process of elimination using counting rods placed on a checkerboard grid, a procedure that mirrors the modern linear algebra technique known as Gaussian elimination. They could manipulate these rods to systematically cancel out variables step by step until the solution for each unknown was revealed. This was not guesswork. It was a precise, algorithmic approach to complex systems, a secret formula for bringing order to chaos. The text also formally introduced a concept that would terrify European mathematicians for centuries: negative numbers. Here, they were not treated as mysterious or impossible quantities. The 9 chapters gave clear rules for operating with them, using red counting rods for positive numbers and black rods for negatives. It established that subtracting a negative number was the same as adding a positive one, a fundamental rule of arithmetic that was considered cutting-edge knowledge in the West as late as the 1700s. The book's practical power extended into the third dimension with precise formulas for calculating the volumes of pyramids, cylinders, and even a truncated pyramid known as a frustum. These were not abstract curiosities. They were essential for state projects, allowing engineers to compute exactly how much earth needed to be moved for a canal, or how much grain a peculiar-shaped silo could hold. This compilation was the invisible framework. Its mathematical secrets enabled the precise astronomy, the monumental architecture, and the vast administrative control that defined ancient China's golden ages. How many other foundational pillars of our modern world were first laid down in secret, their origins forgotten, waiting to be rediscovered in the quiet language of numbers? While ancient mathematicians calculated the volumes of granaries, a different kind of calculation was guiding wooden leviathans across the world's oceans. In the early 15th century, the Ming dynasty's treasure fleets under Admiral Zheng, he were a spectacle of maritime power that has never been equaled. His flagship, the legendary treasure ship, was a floating city over 120 meters long, its 9 masts towering over the water. To stand on its deck was to stand on the largest wooden vessel ever built by human hands, a ship that made Christopher Columbus's Santa Maria, which sailed nearly a century later, look like a humble lifeboat. This was not a single ship on a lonely voyage. It was the heart of an armada of over 300 vessels, carrying 27,000 sailors, soldiers, and diplomats. They were a floating empire, a display of such overwhelming technological and logistical might that their very appearance on the horizon was enough to secure alliances and awe potential rivals. The secret to navigating this colossal fleet across the vast, trackless Indian Ocean was a document known as the Mao Kun Map. This was not a single sheet of parchment, but a detailed, scroll-like atlas charting the course from China all the way to the coast of Africa. It was a mercilessly practical guide for sailors, filled with crucial annotations about star elevations for celestial navigation, sailing directions measured in watches, and detailed notes on treacherous shoals and safe anchorages. It even described the distinctive shapes of mountains on the horizon, turning the very landscape into a navigational signpost. The accuracy of these charts is staggering, suggesting a systematic, decades-long project of exploration and careful record-keeping that mapped the monsoon winds and currents of half the world. But the true, tantalizing secret of Zheng He's voyages lies in the gaps of our knowledge. We know his fleets reached the eastern coast of Africa, but some historians and enthusiasts look at the evidence and ask, did they go further? The destruction of Zheng He's detailed logs and records by court officials who saw the voyages as a wasteful extravagance created a historical black hole. This void has fueled a compelling theory that parts of his fleet, perhaps blown off course, may have rounded the southern tip of Africa and entered the Atlantic, or even crossed the Pacific to the Americas. There are those who point to certain Chinese-like artifacts found in pre-Columbian sites and peculiar similarities in ancient maps as potential clues. Another, even more audacious theory suggests that the mysterious coastlines on some later European maps, which seem to depict a landmass near the southern pole, could be echoes of a Chinese sighting of Antarctica. Were these phantom lands based on lost reports from Zheng He's explorers? We may never know for certain. The court officials who burned the records sought to erase the admiral's legacy, to pretend such ambitious journeys had never happened. In doing so, they may have obliterated the greatest secret of all, that the waves of the world were charted by Chinese sailors long before the age of European exploration even began, their discoveries lost to the flames of political envy. The same imperial vault that protected the 9 chapters also held recipes for a far more perilous kind of knowledge, Deep within their laboratories, Taoist alchemists pursued the ultimate secret, a physical formula for eternal life. Their quest was not mere fantasy, but a rigorous, systematic science of transformation, driven by the belief that just as base metals could be perfected into gold, the human body could be perfected into an immortal vessel. They worked with the most potent substances they could find, believing that the key to longevity lay in consuming elements that were themselves incorruptible. Gold, with its eternal, untarnished sheen, was powdered and mixed into elixirs, but their most powerful ingredient was a brilliant red mineral known as cinnabar, the ore of mercury. This was the ultimate paradox. Cinnabar was beautiful, a vibrant scarlet stone, but when heated, it released silvery, liquid mercury, a substance both fascinating and deadly. The alchemists saw this transformation as a mystical process, a symbol of death and rebirth. They believed that by consuming an elixir containing these transcendent materials, they could absorb their permanent, deathless qualities. The tragic irony is that in their desperate search for life, they were perfecting the tools of death. Their elaborate experiments, conducted over centuries in smoke-filled workshops, led them to mix sulfur, saltpeter, and charcoal in precise proportions. The goal was another potent elixir, but the result was a flash of fire and smoke, the accidental birth of gunpowder. They had stumbled upon the world's first chemical explosive while trying to concoct a potion for immortality. The same processes of distillation and sublimation they used to purify mercury also led to the creation of early acids and the isolation of various medicinal compounds, laying the foundational principles of chemistry. But the most devastating secret was reserved for their patrons, the emperors themselves. Historical records suggest that the mighty Qin Shi Huang, the unifier of China and builder of the Terracotta Army, regularly consumed elixirs laden with mercury and other heavy metals prescribed by his court alchemists to prolong his reign. He died suddenly during a tour of his empire, and many historians now suspect acute mercury poisoning was the cause. His body was likely returned to the capital, secreting the very toxin that now protects his tomb. He was not alone. For centuries, a succession of emperors and nobles seeking eternity instead found a slow, agonizing end, their minds and bodies ravaged by the neurotoxins in their daily draft. The quest for immortality was a secret that killed its most powerful seekers, a dark irony where the potion of life became the poison of a vainglorious death. Even the most potent elixir could not grant the immortality that stone and sound achieved at the Temple of Heaven. In this serene Beijing complex, where emperors once performed sacred rites to communicate directly with the heavens, the architecture itself holds a secret voice. The most famous of these sonic marvels is the Echo Wall, a perfectly smooth, circular wall surrounding the imperial vault of heaven. Its secret is a breathtakingly simple application of physics known as the Whispering Gallery effect. Because the wall forms a continuous, unbroken circle and its surface is meticulously polished, sound waves do not scatter or dissipate as they normally would. Instead, they cling to the curved surface, traveling along its length with minimal loss of energy. A whisper spoken softly on one side can be heard with perfect clarity over 100 meters away on the opposite side, as if the speaker was standing right beside you. This was not an accident. It was a deliberate design to allow priests and emperors to send messages in hushed, reverent tones during the most solemn ceremonies, their voices carried by the wall itself as if on a celestial current. But the acoustic mysteries do not end there. Standing before the echo wall are the triple sound stones. If you stand on the first stone and clap your hands once, the sound returns to you as a single, clear echo. Step to the second stone and the same single clap reverberates back twice. Move to the third and final stone, and your clap magically transforms into 3 distinct, successive echoes. The secret lies in the precise, calculated distances between each of the 3 stones and the curved wall facing them. Each stone is positioned so that the sound wave from a clap travels a different, longer path to the wall and back. The first echo is the direct reflection. The second and third echoes are the sound bouncing between the wall and the raised platform you stand on. The delays so perfectly timed by the architects that they create this triple response. This was an intentional sonic secret, a piece of ritual technology designed to amplify the emperor's communications with the cosmos. In a ceremony, the number of echoes might have signaled different stages of the ritual or different levels of divine acknowledgement. It was a way for the architecture to speak back, confirming that the prayers of the Son of Heaven were indeed being heard in the realms above. These are not mere curiosities. They are evidence of an advanced understanding of acoustics, where geometry and physics were harnessed to build a bridge between the human and the divine, a secret conversation etched not in scrolls but in the very air. That same acoustic precision which guided prayers to heaven was channeled into a machine that could navigate the earth with unerring accuracy. In the heart of the imperial court, a mechanical marvel known as the south-pointing chariot rolled across palace floors, its central figure perpetually extending an arm toward the south. No matter how the chariot twisted or turned through a complex demonstration, the delicate wooden statue on its roof remained fixed, a living compass that defied all visual logic. Its secret was not magnetism, but mathematics, a brilliant system of mechanical feedback that functioned as the world's first analog computer. The chariot's engineering was a masterpiece of geared intelligence. As the chariot wheels turned, they drove a complex train of differential gears hidden within the vehicle's body. The true genius was in the feedback mechanism. When the chariot turned, the gears would calculate the difference in rotation between the two wheels, the very same principle that allows a modern car to turn corners smoothly. This differential movement was then translated into a compensating rotation applied in the opposite direction to the figure on top. If the chariot turned 90 degrees to the left, the internal gearing automatically rotated the figure 90 degrees to the right, perfectly cancelling out the change and keeping it locked on its southern bearing. It was a closed-loop system of pure mechanical logic, a secret of directional integrity maintained without any electronic sensors or digital code. This was not a simple toy. It was a sophisticated navigational instrument, a state secret that demonstrated the empire's profound command over the physical world. For centuries, the precise design was lost and rediscovered, a testament to its advanced nature. The core principle of the differential gear, so vital to this ancient Chinese device, would remain hidden from the West for over a millennium, until it was independently reinvented in the 19th century for use in modern automobiles. How many other foundational technologies have we credited to our own era when their first secret whispers echoed from a distant and forgotten past? The south-pointing chariot was but one marvel in a hidden tradition of mechanical genius that rivaled the ancient world's greatest workshops. This secret legacy of automata and complex machinery produced wonders that seemed to defy their own time. Consider the astronomical clock tower built by Su Song in the 11th century. This colossal wooden structure, towering over 10 meters high, was a cathedral of precision engineering driven entirely by the constant power of water. Its central secret was a water-driven escapement mechanism, a device that regulated the clock's movement with astonishing accuracy, releasing its gears in a steady, measured rhythm. This was the very same mechanical principle that would form the heart of every mechanical clock in Europe, but it appeared here centuries earlier. Su Song's clock was more than a timekeeper. It was a cosmic simulator. Its intricate arrangement of gears and wheels powered a rotating celestial globe that mapped the stars, while automated figures emerged from doors to ring bells and announce the passing hours. It was a mechanical universe in miniature, a silent, whirring orchestra of wood and water that chronicled the heavens. This tradition of automated brilliance began even earlier with masters like Zhang Heng, whose seismoscope sensed distant quakes. He also crafted a water-powered armillary sphere to track celestial bodies, and is even credited with building a chariot that recorded the distance it traveled using a complex system of gears that dropped a ball into a drum after each Chinese mile. These were not isolated curiosities. They were the products of a systematic, secret science of mechanics, a field known as clever artifice, where engineers sought to replicate the movements of nature and the cosmos through intricate assemblies of wood, bronze, and hydraulics. They built mechanical puppet theaters for royal entertainment, with figures that danced and played music, and automated animals that moved with uncanny life. The profound tragedy, however, is that this secret technological flame often flickered and went out. So much of this knowledge was preserved in isolated court circles dependent on imperial patronage. When a dynasty fell or an emperor's interest shifted, the workshops could be disbanded, the blueprints lost, and the engineering secrets forgotten for generations. The water-driven escapement, a breakthrough that could have revolutionized global timekeeping, never made the journey westward. It was rediscovered independently in Europe hundreds of years later. This cycle of brilliant invention and devastating loss forces a haunting question. How different might the course of technology have been if this river of mechanical genius had flowed unbroken into the modern world? The legacy of these ancient engineers is a testament to a forgotten age of automation, a secret history of wheels within wheels that laid the unacknowledged groundwork for our own mechanical world. This journey through 25 ancient secrets reveals a civilization of staggering ingenuity, one that sensed earthquakes with bronze dragons, mastered the microscopic world of fermentation, and engineered cities to survive millennia. We have seen chemical weapons deployed in ancient sieges, mechanical computers navigating by pure gear logic, and a sword so advanced it defied 2,000 years of decay. These are not isolated curiosities. They form a mosaic of a world that was scientifically brilliant, spiritually profound, and endlessly inventive. The conventional image of an isolated, monolithic empire crumbles away, replaced by a dynamic culture connected to distant lands and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. From the celestial mathematics of the 9 chapters to the biological secret of silk, these discoveries force us to rewrite our understanding of history itself. The true secret of ancient China is its breathtaking modernity, a legacy of innovation that was often lost, only to be painfully rediscovered centuries later. So we are left with one final, haunting question. If these 25 revelations have so completely reshaped our view of the past, what other world-altering secrets still lie buried, hidden in unopened tombs, lost in silent libraries, or sleeping beneath the waves? The search is far from over. Tell us in the comments which one of these ancient Chinese secrets truly blew your mind, and subscribe now so you do not miss our next journey into the heart of history's greatest mysteries.